Filipino consumers pay the highest electricity rates in Asia. Why? We paid an average of 9 pesos and 14 cents per kilowatt hour a month in 2011, or about 25 cents in 2012, more expensive than Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and even industrialized Japan. The electricity bill reflects the following. The power plants that process energy from sources like coal and fuel turn them into electricity that lights up our homes, street lights, powers our gadgets, and keeps our factories going. These generation charges account for over half of the bill. Then the cost of transporting the electricity, still in its high voltage form, from the power plants through transmission towers to the power distributors is reflected in the transmission charges. Distributors charge for bringing power already reduced to 220 volts to us, users. Systems losses refer to the electricity wasted because they were lost in transmission or were pilfered. Universal charges are various costs passed on to consumers. And subsidies are the discounts given to senior citizens and lifeline consumers who are using less than 100 kilowatt a month. Then of course, government taxes. All these are moving parts. They go up or down, and usually they go up. The bill is high because some costs of operations increased. For example, almost half of our energy sources are coal and oil, mostly imported from the Middle East. But these are capital-intensive businesses that also have to recover through profits. To encourage investments, the government guarantees their margin. When companies import, the foreign exchange fluctuations may be expensive and eat into their guaranteed profits. They can recover through the ICIRA or incremental currency exchange rate adjustment mechanism. The power plants formerly owned by state-owned Napocor can also recover profits. If their purchase power and fuel costs eat into these guaranteed margins, we feel these via GRAM or Generation Rate Adjustment Mechanism, which increases the generation charges. The same for state-owned transmission company or Transco. If the cost of transporting high voltage power to retailers pull down their assured profits of 15%, they can recover through TRAM or Transmission Rate Adjustment Mechanism. And Napocor, which is left with bringing light to far-flung areas or islands, also pass on the cost of SPUG or Small Power Utilities Group, most of them using expensive diesel. These are added to our bill through universal charges. And because they are public utilities, what goes up and down in our electric bill required approval of the Energy Regulatory Commission. In the past, the state-owned Napocor was inefficient. In the 1990s, rolling blackouts prompted government to promise investors it will buy all the supply generated by the independent power producers. When the Asian financial crisis struck in 1997-98, demand slowed down but consumers still paid for the excess supply. Worse, in 2002, the government did not let Napocor, which had incurred a lot of debts, charge higher fees. This resulted in Napocor's massive losses that we are now paying for. The Electric Power Industry Reform Act or EPIRA was introduced in 2001 to address the sins of the past. The new law broke apart Napocor's monopoly of generation and transmission businesses. Through Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corp or PSAM, the state-owned power plants were sold to private investors. The transmission service was sold to a Filipino-Chinese consortium called National Grid Corporation of the Philippines or NGCP. The debts of Napocor amounting to $6.5 billion in 2001 were partly assumed by national government, and the rest are charged to our bill over time. This is reflected in the universal charges. PSAM, while it was supposed to earn revenues from the privatized power plants, incurred debts because it was not able to immediately sell some of them, so it had to maintain these aging plants. PSAM will recover these debts, worth about 130 billion pesos, via universal charges. NGCP, on the other hand, are recovering some of Napocor's debts before the transmission assets were turned over through TRAM. These profit-related reasons and sins of the past are passed on to us, consumers, and are tucked into the electricity bill. Another item that you will soon find in there is the feed-in tariff. This is to encourage investors to tap renewable sources like geothermal, hydro, wind, solar, biomass, and run-of-river energy. Because these are from indigenous sources, they could eventually reduce electricity prices. These are not dependent on coal and oil imports, which are vulnerable to foreign exchange volatility. But what should really drive electricity prices down are market forces. The EPIRA created the WESM, or the Wholesale Electricity Spot Market. It is where power producers sell their electricity units and customers buy at a price they want. These systems the EPIRA promised were supposed to be in place in 2011. However, there are still few generation players, and those who have built new power plants are not generating enough electricity to make trading at WESM a truly competitive and thriving one. Buyers are not yet bidding for the lowest price, but for available supply. When there are more new power projects and the private sector will stake more capital in them, then the electricity bill will soon be lowered. Lala Rimando, Rappler, Manila.